Hi everybody, Jennifer Blevin-Smith with Integral Clinic Solutions, and you're watching my YouTube channel, Navigating the Business of Medicine. Today we're going to talk about reading electronic remittance advices. Those are also called EOBs or explanation of benefits, or EOPs, explanation of payments. These terms are used interchangeably because they are all the same document. Usually the EOBs or EOPs are in paper form and will be sent to you via fax or through snail mail. And electronic remittance advice are the 835 forms that will be received electronically and often will auto post to your billing system when received. So on your screen here, you can see that this is an example of an EOB that a patient would get from Lifewise. And this is a health plan of Oregon. It's a small, it was a small plan or insurance in Oregon. There is not much of them left anymore. But this is just showing what a patient would receive after they go see one of their doctors or providers. They would get something in the mail that shows them what they were billed for by their physician for the services rendered, how much was billed, how much the insurance is going to cover, and then how much is going to be their responsibility. Now, the type of document that providers' offices will receive is very similar to this. It just has a little bit more detail, but I'm sure everyone watching is familiar with seeing an EOB received from your doctor's office, and this probably looks familiar. A lot of times, patients will receive their EOBs before a doctor's office will receive any kind of documentation or proof that a claim has been processed. So sometimes you'll get a call from a patient if they have a question about the EOB they received in the mail, and you'll be kind of shocked to be like, what? You got something already? Because they seem to send things out to patients faster than they do to providers. Our next example here is going to be an EOB that a Premera Blue Cross patient would receive. Same kind of example as the Lifewise with the immunizations and the dates of service, and it breaks it down on how to read them. I will put the links to these in the description box for this video if you guys want to look at them closer and read all of the numbers closer. But I just wanted to show these to you because we're going to be looking at the other side of them, or the provider side of this type of document, and wanted to introduce it just so the familiarity was there. Okay, so here we are going to start talking about electronic remittance advice and how things will look on your end. And I'll also give some examples of EOBs, but there's some terminology that I wanted to establish first before we move too much further. And the first thing is that if you are sending electronic claims to insurances, that means you're sending an 837. And an 837 is the electronic equivalent of a HCFA. Unfortunately, it's not a direct kind of translation of the HCFA, so they use ANSI, and it's an acronym ANSI, and there's different loops to different segments that correlate with the certain boxes on the HCFA, and we can do a whole nother video about that. But basically, you have to enroll for some of these insurances through the EDI or electronic data interchange to be able to send these 837 electronic files to the insurance. And let's say Medicare, they only accept electronic claims, so you have to be signed up for that. Some insurances you can automatically submit the 837s, some of them require you to enroll in the EDI. So a lot of times people will rely on their provider relations person at the insurance company themselves, or your clearinghouse representative or billing specialist to be able to figure all this out and get it set up before you start submitting claims, because if they only accept electronic claims and you have to set that up ahead of time, you might get a backlog of claims before it's set up and able to submit, and it could delay payment. So these are things that need to be looked into before you open your practice, of course. Then you have to sign up for what's called an 835 or the electronic remittance advice. And that's going to come through most likely some kind of data interchange as well. And a lot of times it's through your clearinghouse, which if it interfaces with your billing system, it will go directly from the insurance through the clearinghouse, and then your billing system can upload it and it will auto post all the details that we're going to discuss here in a second. But there's some things on the ERA that you need to pay attention to. Sometimes it will say if it was an electronic fund transfer payment and it will have an EFT trace number. That's not always the case, unfortunately, or it would make reconciling your bank account with your payments a lot easier, but unfortunately that's not always the case. You're at the mercy basically of the ERA information, at the mercy of the insurance company of what data they're going to provide when it comes to the payment information. Sometimes it will just say a check number, which if it was an electronic fund transfer, it wasn't really a check, but they just use that universally. Sometimes they'll just say a payment number. So it's one of those things you really need to be on top of and understand how you're getting paid from all of your insurances. So as you can see here, there's an RARC, and that's an acronym for Remittance Advice Remark Codes, and that's going to be supplemental information for explanations. So basically down here, you have each line item that's being billed. Here's your CPT code listed, the dates of service, the place of service, the rendering provider's MPI number, control number if you need it, how many units were billed. And you'll see that these CAGCs are here, and that's an acronym for Claim Adjust Group Code. And that usually has two alpha characters that are assigned assigning responsibility of the claim adjustment. So any adjustment that's made or amount is dedicated to a certain action, it will have a 2 alpha prefix, and then it's combined with the CARCs, which is a claim adjustment reason code. So as you can see here, you have the two letters. CO is contractual obligation, PR is patient responsibility, and then the numbers tell you why or how it was adjusted or why it is responsible for patient, like what it's being applied to or what kind of contractual obligation there is. So those are things that you need to pay attention to when you're reading ERAs, is you're going to see these codes. We also call them CAS codes, CAS codes. And basically, they will tell you on each line item if something needs to be adjusted, if something was taken away, what have you. And then this code up here just gives more information on these codes if applicable. They might not always be here on every code, but most ERAs are going to have these codes somewhere on them. So usually there is a key at the bottom of the remittance, and this one doesn't seem to have it. But let's look at this one. See, this is the glossary that has the group code, so those two letters telling you what they stand for, and then those numbers, and then the bigger RARCs, or the additional supplemental explanation codes down here. So we'll go back to this example. This is on the Noridian website, which is a MAC for a lot of Western states. And so we're just looking at this, and I'm sorry, wrong page. We're here. So we're looking at this. So let's just do this one line item and take a look at it. So the one unfortunate thing is that all ERAs and all EOBs are going to look a little different. And even though it all has the same information, it might be in different formats. And so it's hard to kind of get adjusted to it until you know what you're looking for. So you always want to look for the patient, their subscriber number somewhere on here as well. It has the pay to billing MPI number. It has the date, how many pages. That's really important, especially if you have to scan these documents if they're paper to a billing entity, to make sure you scan all of the pages, even if you don't think it's relevant because it might have a code that they need or something. Look on the back of pages because sometimes they print front and back. Control numbers are important. ICN numbers are important. But anyway, what we're looking at here is we have the patient's name, we have the rendering provider's MPI number right here, which you'll always see. We have the service date, so it looks like it was 12/24/2013. place of service 11, which is an office. We have CPT code 99202, which is a new patient level 2. 1 unit was billed, which is correct. And we have $145 was billed out. According to the contracted amount, the allowed amount was $74.28. It doesn't look like the patient has any deductible responsibility, but they do have a coinsurance responsibility. So basically, you look at these as well, and it looks like these codes down here, the patient is responsible for $14.86. The CO 223, I know that off the top of my head, that's your sequestrian amount taken out ever since the Affordable Care Act went into place. I think it was 2013 is when all Medicare claims start having a sequestration amount taken out. There's no exemptions. There might be now. I'm not fully up to date on all of that, but they always take out a certain amount per claim. So that's the $1.19. And so if you look at this, basically, if you were to take the $58.23 that the insurance paid and add it to $14.86 plus the $1.19 that was taken out, it totals $74.28. So basically, your allowed amount and the other amounts that come after it should always add up to the allowed amount, but it will tell you where that other money is coming from. So the 5823 is a check or an EFT you should be receiving from the insurance company. The $14.86 will be posted as patient responsibility in your system, and they'll receive a statement. And if they needed a copay, that would be subtracted from it if there was a deductible responsibility, and that's how that comes together. So if we were to look at these, see these look a little bit different than the other one, but it basically still has the same information on it. We have all of the MPI numbers. This tells you straight up what patient responsibility is, and if you hover over these things, it will explain more. Like I said, I will put the links to all of my examples in the description box so you can go and explore yourself. I encourage you to go in, get a strong understanding, especially if you're just opening a practice or you've never learned this before and you're a business owner in a medical practice, because it's really important for you to be able to go in and look at these if a patient calls about their bill, so you can kind of explain to them, oh, you're responsible for that because it went to deductible, or that was your co-insurance, or it was a denied service, it wasn't covered, or whatever it may be. So it's really important. I do find that a lot of providers don't understand how to read these, and I completely understand because it's not taught in any kind of professional school. And if you've worked for bigger entities where you haven't had to do anything in billing, then there's no reason for you to have learned. So that's why I'm doing this. I'm just, trying to show you. Here's another example. I kind of showed you earlier because it has all of the glossary, but it's definitely can be confusing, and it takes a while, like I said, to really get used to it. But this one is nice because it says billed $66 allowed, which means that would be your contractual allowance, or your allowed fee per your contract. So the adjustment would be the difference. The contractual adjustment would be the difference between these two. It looks like they're making 34 cents going to deductible with a $9.97 responsibility for the co-insurance for the patient. And so there's a 1617, and it looks like, let's see, PR 96. So PR is always patient responsibility, but what is 96? Non-covered charges. So it will put it down here that it's a non-covered charge. And then you have these MOA, MOA 01, MA07. And again, these are supposed to give you more information based on those smaller codes. So MA01 is just telling you that if you want to appeal the decision, you can. The claim information has also been forwarded to Medicaid for review, so they must have had Medicaid listed as a secondary, so it's telling you it was forwarded on. And what was the other thing for that one? MOA. Let's see if we can find that on here. I don't know where that is. Anyway, so basically, you go in here, you'll look it up, and it should tell you a lot of it. If it's still not making sense, never hesitate to call the insurance and ask. You will need the claim number, so make sure that you do have the claim number. Right here, see it says check/EFT, so it's not even telling you how, so you need to keep track and know how you're receiving your payments from different payers. But this looks like this was a paper remittance when Medicare used to send paper. So anyway, just take a look at these. I encourage you to become familiar, become comfortable. Here's another example that's pointing out all the different codes and how it's figured out. So, go on, teach yourself, do your due diligence. I promise you this will not be wasted time. It's very valuable and it can come in handy a lot, especially when trying to communicate with your patients and also for reviewing these and making sure that insurances are doing what they're supposed to be doing in the way they're processing and just doing your due diligence. So anyways, leave a comment or question in the comments if you have anything about this topic. Smash the thumbs up if today's video was helpful, and of course subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Please feel free to share this with anybody whom you feel would benefit from this information or would learn from this information. That's what we're here for, and that's what I like to do, is try to help teach people. So have a wonderful day. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.